You think the elite play by the same financial rules you do? You think hard work alone saves you when the economy gets rocky? Look at what is happening in the news right now with billionaire figures and political insiders dropping $5 million donations to SU per Pascal C's right before they testify in front of congressional oversight committees. It looks like a classic elite survival tactic to buy softballs from regulators, but what does this mean for the average person trying to achieve financial freedom? It means the system is built for the ultra-wealthy, and if you do not actively build your own bulletproof financial shield, you are just waiting to get crushed by the next major market shift. Before we dive into the exact tools to build that shield, comment your age and the exact amount of money you invest every single month right below, so we can track our community progress toward breaking the cycle. The truth is that while billionaires throw around millions of dollars to protect their empires, regular people are out here trying to figure out if their standard savings accounts will even cover inflation next year. You cannot control political corruption or what happens in a closed-door congressional oversight room, but you can completely control your individual financial defense system. Stop trying to time the market, because time in the market always beats timing the market. If you are waiting for the perfect day to start investing, you are losing thousands of dollars in potential compound growth every single day. The elite know how to use long-term consistency, and that is exactly why you need to master dollar-cost averaging using reliable index funds like VU or high-dividend ETFs like SCHD. Open up a tax-advantaged account like a Roth IRA immediately, because stopping Uncle Sam from taking a bite out of your retirement growth is the absolute fastest way to accelerate your path to wealth. You also need to ruthlessly audit your current lifestyle and change your daily consumption habits to free up cash flow for investing. You do not need a brand new luxury vehicle with an $800 monthly payment when you can drive a reliable 2006 used car and redirect that exact same cash directly into your portfolio every single month. Stop wasting your hard-earned money on high-end apartment rentals just to look successful to strangers, when you could live in a highly functional minimalist space to keep your overhead near zero. True wealth is not about showing off fancy depreciating assets. True wealth is about having the freedom to walk away from any situation because your portfolio generates enough passive income to sustain your life. Stop letting the corporate world dictate your financial future, while the top 1% plays games with millions of dollars behind the scenes. Take control of your financial destiny right now by automating your monthly investing and sticking to a disciplined long-term strategy. Let us think about how the financial game is actually rigged against the average person who refuses to learn the rules of modern capitalism. Most people go to school and get a job. Then they get a credit card and start buying things they do not need with money. They do not have to impress people. They do not even like. This is the classic consumer trap that keeps you working until you are 65 years old or older, while the people at the top use your debt to fund their own real estate portfolios and corporate investments. When you see a billionaire executive navigate a massive scandal by utilizing deep political connections and strategic financial contributions, you should realize that your only real protection is your personal balance sheet. If you have zero savings and zero investments, you are essentially a modern slave to your next paycheck. If your boss tells you to do something unethical, or if your company decides to downsize tomorrow, you have no leverage and no safety net. But when you build a massive portfolio filled with productive assets like VU, which tracks the 500 largest companies in the United States, you suddenly have options. You can look at market volatility not as a disaster, but as a massive discount sale on the future productivity of global commerce. That is the shift in mindset that separates the professional investors from the retail amateurs who constantly get wiped out during market corrections. The amateurs watch the evening news and see reports of political chaos or rising interest rates, and they panic sell everything at the absolute bottom of the cycle. Then they wait for things to feel safe again before they buy back into the market at the absolute top of the cycle. This is how regular people constantly get liquidated by Wall Street algorithms that feast on human emotion and lack of financial discipline. You need to understand that the media is paid to keep you terrified and distracted, while the big institutional funds accumulate cheap assets during panics. If you want to break out of this cycle, you must automate your investing process so that your emotions are completely removed from the equation. You set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your brokerage account on the same day every single month, regardless of whether the market is up or down or sideways. This is the core philosophy of dollar-cost averaging, which mathematically guarantees that you buy fewer shares when prices are high and more shares when prices are low. Over a period of 10 or 20 or 30 years, this simple discipline creates an unstoppable compounding machine that will outperform almost every single active fund manager who tries to trade the news. Look at the historical data of the broader stock market over the last 100 years, and you will see that despite world wars and pandemics and depressions, the long-term trajectory of corporate earnings is consistently upward. Your job is not to guess which individual stock is going to be the next massive winner, because that is just gambling with a different name. Your job is to own a piece of the entire economic engine through diversified low-cost index funds. When you buy a share of VO, you are instantly becoming a part owner of Apple and Microsoft and Amazon and Nvidia and hundreds of other highly profitable enterprises that employ the smartest minds on earth to generate revenue for their shareholders. You do not need to spend hours analyzing balance sheets or listening to earnings calls when you can just ride the wave of global productivity. And if you combine that growth engine with a high dividend ETF like SCHD, you create a compounding feedback loop where your cash flow increases every single quarter without you ever having to sell down. Your principal balance, the dividends paid out by these established corporations, get automatically reinvested to purchase even more fractional shares, which then generate even more dividends in the next cycle. This is how real generational wealth is built. While regular people are busy chasing speculative meme coins or hot tech stocks that have no real earnings and no viable business models, you have to stop looking for shortcuts, because there are no shortcuts to financial independence that do not involve massive risk of total capital destruction. The real secret is simply radical consistency combined with extreme lifestyle optimization. Let us talk about the expense side of the equation, because you cannot invest money that you have already spent on temporary consumer status symbols. Society has conditioned you to believe that as your income increases, your standard of living should automatically increase alongside it. This is known as lifestyle inflation, and it is the primary reason why doctors and lawyers who make $300,000 a year can still find themselves living paycheck to paycheck and drowning in debt. They buy the $2 million mansion with a massive mortgage, they lease 2 brand new European luxury SUVs, they pay for expensive country club memberships, and suddenly their fixed monthly overhead requires them to work 60 hours a week. Just to stay afloat, they are trapped in a golden cage of their own making because they care more about looking rich than actually being wealthy. You need to adopt a completely different approach, which is to maintain a wide gap between your income and your living expenses. If you get a raise at work, or if your side business starts generating extra cash, you do not upgrade your apartment or buy expensive designer clothing. You channel 100% of that new capital directly into your investment accounts to buy more shares of productive assets. Think about the practical reality of driving a 2006 used car that is completely paid for versus financing a brand new vehicle. The new car depreciates by 20% the moment you drive it off the lot and continues to lose value every single day while requiring expensive comprehensive insurance premiums and high maintenance costs. The old car might not have the latest touchscreen dashboard or the prestige of a luxury logo, but it gets you from point A to point B safely while allowing you to deploy an extra $500 or $800 every month into assets that actually appreciate in value. Over a decade, that single decision to avoid a car payment can result in an extra $100,000 or more in your investment portfolio due to the power of compound interest. The same logic applies to your living situation, because housing is typically the largest single expense in any household budget. Instead of renting a luxury apartment with a rooftop pool and a concierge service that you rarely use, you should look for a highly functional minimalist space, or consider house hacking, where you rent out extra rooms to cover your housing costs. Every single dollar you save on rent or a mortgage is another dollar that goes to work for you in the global markets. You need to treat your personal finances like a business where you are the chief executive officer, and your primary goal is to maximize your net profit margin. Your revenue is your salary and your side hustles, and your expenses are your cost of goods sold. If a business has high revenue but also has massive unnecessary overhead, it will eventually go bankrupt when the market conditions change. But a business with lean operations and a high profit margin can survive any economic winter and has the capital available to acquire distressed assets when everyone else is panicking. That is the exact position you want to be in as an individual investor. You want to have cash ready to deploy when the market drops, because that is when the real wealth transfers occur. But you cannot do that if your money is tied up in high fixed monthly payments for things that do not produce income. Look at how tax legislation is structured, because understanding the tax code is another critical component of the elite playbook that you can utilize for your own benefit. The government creates tax incentives to encourage specific behaviors that benefit the economy, such as investing for retirement and providing capital to corporations. When you use a tax-advantaged account like a Roth IRA, you are using the legal framework to shield your future wealth from capital gains taxes and dividend taxes. You contribute money that has already been taxed today, and then that money grows completely tax-free inside the account for decades. When you finally reach retirement age and start withdrawing funds, every single dollar you take out is completely free from federal income tax. This is a massive advantage compared to a standard taxable brokerage account, where you are taxed on your realized capital gains and your annual dividend distributions every single year. By eliminating the drag of annual taxes on your compounding returns, you allow your money to grow at a much faster rate over time. It is like running a race without a heavy backpack holding you back from your maximum speed. You must maximize your contributions to these accounts every single year before you even think about investing in speculative ventures. Most people do not take advantage of these tools because they require patience and long-term thinking, and our modern culture is completely addicted to instant gratification. People want to become rich by next week so they can show off on social media rather than becoming truly wealthy over the next 20 years in total silence. You have to develop the psychological stamina to watch other people live flashily on borrowed money while you quietly build a massive financial fortress that nobody else can see. It does not matter if your friends think you are cheap because you drive an old vehicle or live in a modest neighborhood because you know the numbers and the numbers do not lie. While they are stressing out about how to pay their credit card bills every month, you are watching your portfolio generate passive income that covers your core living expenses. That is the true definition of financial freedom. It is not about having millions of dollars to spend on mega yachts or private jets like the billionaires in the news. It is simply about owning your time and having the power to make choices based on what you actually want to do rather than what you are forced to do to survive. If you want to leave a toxic job, you can leave because you have an emergency fund and a growing investment portfolio to support you. If you want to start a new business or pursue a creative passion, you have the financial runway to take that risk without worrying about how you will pay rent next month. This level of personal sovereignty is worth far more than any luxury consumer product you could ever buy. You need to realize that every time you spend money on non-essential consumer goods, you are trading a piece of your future freedom for a temporary hit of dopamine. When you buy a $1,000 smartphone that you do not really need, you are not just spending $1,000 today, you are spending the future value of that $1,000. If it had been invested in VO for the next 25 years, which could easily be worth $5,000 or $10,000 depending on the market returns. When you look at purchases through the lens of opportunity cost, your entire relationship with money changes completely. You start to see every dollar as a financial soldier that can be deployed to fight for your freedom rather than a piece of paper to be discarded at the nearest retail store. This does not mean you have to live a life of extreme deprivation or never enjoy your hard-earned money, but it means you must be intentional about where your capital goes. You prioritize spending on things that bring genuine value to your life while completely cutting out the mindless consumption that society tells you is mandatory. You stop trying to keep up with the appearances of wealth and focus entirely on the accumulation of actual productive assets. Look at the reality of the global economic landscape today, where inflation is constantly eroding the purchasing power of cash sitting in a traditional bank account. The banks pay you a fraction of a percent in interest while they take your deposits and lend them out at much higher rates or invest them in profitable assets for their own benefit. If you keep all your savings in cash, you are guaranteed to lose wealth every single year as the cost of food and housing and healthcare continues to rise. The only way to outpace inflation and protect your long-term purchasing power is to own things that grow in value and produce rising income over time, which means stocks and real estate and productive businesses. You cannot afford to sit on the sidelines because the economic system is designed to penalize savers and reward owners. You must transition from being a pure consumer to becoming a permanent owner of global enterprise. You do not need a massive amount of capital to start this journey because modern technology allows you to invest fractional amounts with zero-fee brokerages. You can start with as little as $10 or $50 a week and let the process of automation take care of the rest. The most important step is simply getting started today, rather than waiting for some perfect future scenario where you think you will have more money or more knowledge. Time is your greatest asset when it comes to compounding returns, and every day you delay is a day of growth that you can never get back. Stop focusing on the political theater and the actions of corrupt elites who operate in a completely different world than you do. Focus entirely on your own financial circle of competence and build your own defense system, piece by piece, through disciplined saving and consistent automated investing. Change your daily consumption habits and redirect that capital into your future self. Because nobody else is going to save you or hand you financial freedom on a silver platter, you have the tools and the information necessary to change your trajectory right now. So stop making excuses and start executing your plan with absolute discipline every single day. Hit that subscribe button. Peace.